Welcome to an edition of the Consultus Chat. My name is Michael Savage. I'm joined by Martin Smith. Martin, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, Martin Smith. I am Head of Bureau Services at Consultus. Got various experience in the water industry, going back 14 years now, I think it is. I think I've covered pretty much all bases at the moment. Spent a few years within the wholesale industry, a couple of years in the retail industry, before moving into the consulting industry.
Excellent. All right, brilliant. Well, look, thank you for joining us. We're going to have a bit of a session to ask you a few questions about your experiences, what you've seen in the market over a number of years.
Yeah.
A good place to start, I think, Martin, would be talk to us about the history of the market, what we've seen during your time and how things have changed a little bit.
Yeah, so historically, predominantly you were kind of locked into your regional monopolies. So customers couldn't switch suppliers, they were sort of stuck within the different regional monopolies. The Scottish market, that opened in 2008, followed by the English market in 2017, which means any commercial entity can essentially choose now which retailer they want to go with.
Mm-hmm.
The market itself has now evolved probably 7 years now since initially opening. A few challenges at the start, I'd say, but I definitely think things have improved over the 7 years.
Okay, excellent. What are the key challenges that we've seen in the marketplace going back a few years and perhaps still exist somewhat today?
I think, to be fair, at the start there was a lot of data issues in the UK market, a lot of metering issues, and a part of that was knowledge changes. So historically in your wholesale area you had the same meter readers going to the same locations, they knew where the meters were, they knew they had to knock on a certain door to get someone to get access.
Yeah.
When the market opened, all that sort of changed, so a lot of that knowledge and data kind of been lost during the transfer, which then has an impact on billing, which then has further impact on customer services. So when the market first opened, it was quite unstable in those areas, but as time's gone on now, I think that's gradually getting better and better and better.
Okay, all right. It'd be really useful for people watching if you could kind of give a bit of an explanation of how the water market actually functions today. Who are the key players, the structures that are involved, and how that ultimately kind of serves and lands water landers at a customer's door or through their pipes, and their interactions with these different stakeholders.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, so to start off, you've got your wholesalers, so they're your typical regional monopolies that you had before the market opened. They're still there. They're still responsible for all the network, providing the water, cleaning the water, taking you sewerage, all of that sort of stuff. They're still there, still maintaining all of that.
Yeah.
They're also responsible for setting the prices, so they'll set their own individual prices on their areas. Then you have the retailer that kind of sits on top. The retailer is responsible for your billing, your customer service, your meter readings. So essentially the way it works now is they're still with those regional wholesalers, but they can now centralise to one retailer.
Okay.
So instead of having billing from different wholesalers that you had before the market, they can now have that all centralised with one retailer.
Okay.
Which allows a bit more customisation as well, a bit more negotiation and pricing.
Okay.
Service.
So, Martin, in the energy industry, there is the recognised big six suppliers. Does the same scenario with retailers exist in the water market?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what you tend to have over the years as the market's opened up is a lot of the retailers have joined forces and merged into larger retailers. Some retailers have essentially gave their portfolio to other retailers. So essentially, you've probably got, I'd say, around six, large suppliers that probably consolidate the largest proportion of the market. There are other retail licenses out there for smaller entities, and you also have sort of self-service licenses as well. So again, one of the innovations that came out of the market is customers can also go for a self-supply license where they're essentially acting as their own supplier, which again adds some innovation into the market and also helps reducing costs as well for those customers as well.
Do you have companies that can be wholesalers and retailers? Does that exist?
No. Well, in a sense, no. you'll have retailers which are part owned by some of the wholesalers, but essentially they have to operate as two completely separate entities.
Okay.
So you have to have a separate retail license and a separate wholesale license.
Yeah.
And that's just to give it an even playing field for any new entrants into the market.
Okay. So broadly speaking, I'm imagining a scenario for a lot of the viewers not too dissimilar to the electricity and gas markets that they might be a little bit more familiar with over the course of time that have gone through deregulation. So you've got the people that bill you, which in electricity and gas they're called suppliers, but in water they're called retailers. And then you've got the wholesalers in the water market, but in a sort of electricity and gas they're a few different terms, but distribution network operators, these sorts of organisations. So separate organisations that physically get the thing from where it is sort of generated or produced or put together or stored to an individual's door. And then you've got your retailer, or in the electricity and gas market, supplier that effectively is there to sort of bill you for the charges within the industry and look after you and be the voice that you speak to in the market.
That's it.
Is that a fair explanation?
Yeah, that's it. The retailer will interact with the wholesalers on your behalf. So if, for example, you've got a stopped meter or anything like that, you don't need to go to your individual wholesalers anymore to kind of get that repaired or replaced. You can just go to the one retailer that you've decided to go with, and they'll do all the interactions with the wholesalers on your behalf.
Okay, all right. So Martin, what opportunities exist in the water markets for organisations? What should they be looking to do?
I mean, to be fair, the biggest advantage to start with market opening was just consolidating your bills. Realistically, if you're a multi-site client that's got sites all over the country, historically you would have been getting billed by all different entities for wherever you were in the country. The advantage of the market was allowed you to centralise that. So instead of having hundreds of different bills, you've now got one central consolidated bill. So it saves a lot of admin, makes life just a lot easier. Savings wise, there are some savings in the market. Scotland, you can get savings for up to about 20%.
Okay, that's significant.
Because the market's been open a lot longer, it's matured a lot more than the English market. English market, you're probably looking at up to about 5% savings.
Okay.
But again, you can negotiate your service, you can negotiate your reading requirements, your billing requirements, all of that gives you that opportunity to be able to do that as well.
So you can sort of much more mould your arrangement with your retailer around how you want to do business.
Essentially,
and the key things to how you kind of interact with these the retailers.
In worst case scenario, if a supplier is not performing particularly well, you can switch to another one. So
can you leave mid-contract? If you've got a contract with a retailer, can you exit that if they're not performing?
Not normally, no. Normally there'll be penalties involved in that.
Okay.
Well,
So
similar to
similar to electricity and gas. Okay. All right. What are the major risks in the water market then that organisations should be sort of considering that they have to encounter?
The major risk with water generally is things around leakages.
Okay.
The problem is that you have with a water leak is as soon as that pipe enters the boundary of your property, so it could be your car park or your garden, you're then responsible for that pipe.
Okay.
So if you get a leak within that pipe, you still get charged for the water that is leaking out, essentially.
Yeah. So
and it's not like a
cost comes with that, right?
Cost, And it's not like a cartoon where you're kind of expected to spray it out of the ground. It will just soak away under the ground.
So commonly they're hidden from you.
It's hidden,
you don't
it's
know.
invisible. So leaks can be a big problem. Especially if you've got an older property or an older build property.
Okay.
Good thing is the technology in the market is getting better.
Okay.
Which is where some of the innovation has come from the market.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say it's still slightly behind the gas and power. But things like AMR, automatic readers, they're getting better and cheaper. There's new innovations, new technologies that are coming out in the market which are allowing customers to have those automatic meter reads.
Okay, all right, that's interesting. So, April 2017, the market deregulated. It had an aim, as I understand, to deliver innovation, drive down price, and improve service for customers. Has deregulation delivered on that aim?
I believe so. Well, I say I believe so, but it's better, but maybe not perfect. It's not. It's not where it's not in an ideal market in a sense, but it's getting better over time. So
Okay.
innovation, so things like automatic readers that I've
Yeah.
mentioned before, supplier portals, things like that, they're all coming out of the woodworks a lot more and more now and growing and getting more favourable amongst the suppliers.
Yeah.
Cost savings, again, you know, I said you'll probably get about 5% savings in the English market at the moment.
Yeah.
But those margins are growing.
Okay.
So when I've looked at customers' pricing in the past over the last few years, one thing you do notice is the retail margin. So the price is essentially set by the wholesalers, and then
Yeah.
there's a retail margin that sort of sits
Okay.
on top.
Yeah.
That retail margin seems to be growing year on year
Right. Okay.
as well. So if you sort of fix a long-term contract on quite a low margin, you're going to be benefiting from increased savings year on year.
Yeah.
So there's definitely some cost savings in there as well.
Yeah.
And say service, again, service is improving across the suppliers.
Yeah.
When the market opened, there was a lot of challenges, but it feels like suppliers are getting better at it.
Yeah, so they know that. Okay. And you talked about the quality of meter readings and the ability to have automatic meter readers. I'm aware that kind of in early stages of market deregulation, that was there in principle that you could do that. But there was a number of barriers, sometimes financially and the kind of capability and real true access to do those things. Are you saying that that's now kind of changed and improved from perhaps 5 years back in the early infancy of deregulation?
Well, a lot of it still stands, but there's definitely new technologies which are coming in.
Yeah.
So your typical AMR automatic meter readers that they used to fit on top of the water meters, you tend to also have to get additional costs from the wholesaler to connect that to the meter. So costs were quite high on the automatic readers, and unless you're using a large volume of water on site, it just doesn't warrant the cost of installing an AMR. But we are seeing new technologies coming out which don't need those connections.
Right. Okay.
So things like cameras that sit on top of the meters
Oh,
to
wow.
take meter readings instead of actually dialing into the pulse of the meters.
Yeah.
And they're looking a lot cheaper in a sense. So that will help drive those AMRs essentially, because again, you might reduce the volume of your sites essentially to save money, especially with leaks.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. We're sort of a number of years on from market deregulation. Does it feel like the market is now business as usual?
Yeah.
People are used to it. But have we reached some level of steady state market? Is it still in the state of flux, which often happens when there's a big change, or is it really there's stable retailers, stable wholesalers, certain processes in place, or is it still in this kind of emerging market scenario?
I'd say the processes are pretty in place now. The interaction between the retailers and the wholesalers are pretty good, to be fair. They're a lot better. Generally, I'd say the market is fairly stable.
Okay.
There's been a few consolidations of suppliers since the market's open.
Yeah.
There's been a few exits of suppliers since the market's open. There's been a few new entrants into the market.
Yeah.
Some have been successful, some haven't been successful.
Yeah.
But generally, I'd say the market is pretty stable.
Okay, that's good. So it gives perhaps a little bit more confidence to organisations kind of trying to enter the market or looking at this and see if it's something that they can improve. Okay. In terms of your number of years in the industry, you'll have seen lots of what good looks like, what bad looks like.
Yeah.
What perhaps ongoing changes or improvements would you like to see come in over the next year, 2 years, 3 years as the market continues to evolve?
I mean, generally for the first few years of the market opening, we were very much focused on the basics.
Yeah.
There were a lot of suppliers that were struggling to bill customers, to respond to customer queries. So for us, it was very much just do the basics. Let's just focus on the basics. Let's get bills out. Let's get accurate billing.
Yeah.
If we've got a query on those bills, let's get those queries resolved. It has got better. Some retailers are still performing better than others, as you would with any sort of market. And I think with those suppliers that have kind of got those bits in place, I think the efficiency bit will be the next thing.
Okay.
So driving the efficiency of your water. Again, with the meter readings, it's very hard to kind of understand what is my usage on that site if
Yeah.
you can't get those accurate meter readings. So how do you benchmark? How do you reduce your volume? How do you know if that site's performing well on volume or bad on volume without knowing what it's using? So I think that, along with the AMRs and the accurate billing, will give customers that data to be able to go, okay, well, this site is performing better than this site, so what's going on with that site? Can we do something with that site? Has it got a leak? To help drive the performance of the usage.
All important stuff. A number of the other videos that we do for viewers are centered around net zero. Common themes elsewhere have often been about you need to be able to measure it, and then you can kind of start to do something with it. And ultimately, there is an emission factor attached to the use of water, right? The ability to sort of contain that, reduce it, measure it is going to be super important. So perhaps that kind of innovation and growth in the market is kind of going to be super important to organisations going forward.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, and finally, Martin, if you don't mind, perhaps it's quite a generic thing to say in this forum, but what recommendations would you make to customers in relation to the water market? What should they be considering and looking at?
I think if you've not done anything with the market, I would definitely engage with the market to start with.
Yeah.
Is
there a lot of organisations that still haven't gone and sort of engaged with the market to get a supply contract?
Yeah, I think the market uptake has been quite small,
right,
in comparison to the whole market. So there's a lot of customers that haven't done anything yet with their water. So I would definitely recommend, if you haven't done anything, to do something.
Yeah.
One thing I would probably again recommend is trying to find a supplier, a trusted supplier, and try and fix in a contract for long periods of time for that supplier.
Yeah. So
as long as you can trust that supplier, you're going to get very good billing, very good customer service. You'll get the meter reads that you want. Fix contracts for long periods, because that retail margin is growing. I mean, if it's anything if you can judge the English market the same way the Scottish market has kind of gone, that margin is going to continue to open up.
Yeah.
And if you're fixing a retail margin on that, you're going to be benefiting from more and more savings year on year. Again, if you can get your billing and that more straightforward into a nice, easy kind of process, it gives you that time to then focus on, okay, well, let's do some benchmarking, let's look at some efficiencies. Whereas, especially when the market first opened, where you had that trouble with billing, you didn't have the time to put into the efficiencies because you were spending so much time on the billing. So if you can get a good supplier that you can kind of trust for that period, lock it in.
Excellent. All right, Martin, thank you very much. Thanks for your time. Thanks everyone for watching in. I hope you find that informative, and stay tuned for future videos and content from ourselves. Thank you.